Hey guys, Comic Boom here for another episode of my Rant and Rave. It's been a while since I did a Rant and Rave video. I've been crazy busy. I'm actually between work and everything else, and I want to actually get my passport together. I live in Canada, and I'm going to be visiting Dark Knight there in the U.S., be hitting the New York Comic Con in October. At least that's the plan. And so a lot of moving parts going on right now in my life. It's all good. Life is good. And comic books are, for the most part, good too. But, of course, there's always something to rant about, and there's always something to rave about. And that's what this video is about. So, my focus, as it usually is going to be on the DC Universe. And, right now, the DC Universe is, boy, is it in a state of flux. And I had to write some of this down because as I see it, there's the DC Universe right now, as I see it. And there's my Legion flight ring, see? So I had to put that on when I'm doing this. What the hell, I have my future woman here. I don't know who this woman is, but it's kind of a cool looking shirt, so I thought I'd wear it. In any event, I see the DC Universe right now being broken down in basically almost 5 component parts here. And I'm oversimplifying this, but basically we have the Snyder-verse, which is the Justice League, which consists of Justice League Dark with James Tynion IV, and Justice League Odyssey. It was written by Dan Abnett now. So we got the Justice League going on, and that's with all the Perpetua stuff and the origins of the universe and the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor and the Doom Justice War. Then, of course, we got the Bendis-verse. We got the Bendis-verse, as you can call it. So you got the Snyder-verse with the Justice League titles, and you got the Bendis-verse, which, of course, consists of Superman, Supergirl, and Event Leviathan. So you've got, and that's leading into the Legion of Superheroes. So you've got the Rogol Zar storyline that just wrapped up with encompassing the Superman books, Supergirl, the Rogol Zar storyline ending with the introduction of the Legion of Superheroes, ending just lately with Jor-El being sentenced, and basically, Jor-El has an unfortunate fate, but he's a crazy old man, so he deserved what he gets. And a little bit of a spoiler there, since I read next week's issue, but it is what it is. And so that's 2 things. We got Bendis-verse, Snyder-verse. We got also the Young Justice-verse. Now, I know Bendis writes Young Justice, but the Young Justice right now seems to be a mess of a storyline. Characters are out of nowhere. Their dialogues just, I don't know what's going on in Young Justice. Young Justice recently, they visited Earth 3, and now there's, the Crime Syndicate is gone. The Crime Syndicate, of course, I guess they're going with the, we never know what continuity Bendis is working with, but apparently, despite playing with continuity to establish the very members of the Young Justice team, the Bendis is going with the Darkseid War storyline, which ended with essentially the elimination or the destruction of the Crime Syndicate itself, who were the evil Justice League of Earth 3, and so now, in the pages of Young Justice number 8, we have this whole new, we've got this, I don't like it, it's a terrible idea. We've got all these stupid Young Justice, darker characters living in the crime on Earth 3, and it's not very good. It's really not very good. We had all that fantastic Crime Syndicate, those Crime Syndicate characters of Ultraman and Superwoman and oh my God, and now they're all gone now, and now we're left with stupid Young Justice characters and their doppelgangers and their alternates on Earth 3, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all, but it is what it is. But it's really a separate universe in and of itself. But in any event, so again, Snyderverse, Bendis-verse, and I'm putting Bendis-verse Young Justice on a 3rd category. 4th category, I'm going to put Tom King's Batman, because Tom King, whatever the heck Tom King's doing, let's face it, DC doesn't care. I mean, there's a reason why they fired him, right? They fired him off the Batman titles at issue 85. He's finishing his Batman epic magnum opus, which, it's very divisive, but it is what it is. But Tom King is clearly doing his own thing. I don't think Tom King could pass a test on what's going on with the rest of the DC universe, because I don't think he goes to any of the meetings, editorial meetings. Actually, who am I kidding? I don't think DC has any editorial meetings. Very clearly, Snyder doesn't know what Bendis is doing. Bendis doesn't know what Snyder's doing. Nobody knows what Tom King is doing. And then all the other writers are just sort of afterthoughts or whatever. It's nuts. Now I know Snyder. I know Scott Snyder has tweeted. He's tweeted that don't worry, everything all sort of it's gonna make sense. It's gonna make sense. Just give us time. Well, you know, you've already had what 2 years on Justice League. Bendis has had a year. We know what a disaster that's been for the Rogol-Zar storyline. No, nothing answered. Leading to the formation of the Legion of Superheroes. We still don't know the origins of Rogol-Zar. We know now that Jor-El created Rogol-Zar. That'll be revealed next week. Oops, spoiler, sue me. You know, again, how is this revealed? How, you know, where's the stories behind this to justify this? It's just one giant continuous mess. Now, but it is what it is. Now, there's a plus side to this. So you got the Snyder-verse, you got the Bendis-verse, you got the Young Justice Chaos, you got the Tom King-verse, and then you got the Stragglers. You got Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. That's doing its own thing. You got J. Willow Wilson and Wonder Woman kind of doing her own thing, sort of. And then you got Flash. Williamson's The Flash, dealing with his made-up forces, the Spice Force. Sage. Sage Force, Strength Force. So he's dealing with that mess and finally starting to kill off characters that nobody likes anyway. So he's doing his own thing. But none of this is really, really interesting. You know what I'm saying? Nothing is really, because none of it fits together, it's hard to find any of it, well, really, really thought-provoking or interesting. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of props to Snyder here because I'm enjoying Justice League. It's just frustrating when none of the other titles really seem to reflect what's going on in Justice League, or there doesn't seem to be a lot of coherence here. But wait, you say, there's Year of the Villain, because all 5 of these things I'm talking about. You know, so when you include in the Snyder-verse, the Bendis-verse, the Young Justice crap, the Stragglers of Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, the Stragglers as I call them, Tom King's Batman, all of this is wrapped up in a giant encumbrance called Year of the Villain. Year of the Villain. As a matter of fact, it's teased in solicitations that sometime next year in 2020, we're all going to be able to call a 1-800 number, I'm not making this crap up, and we're going to be able to vote on who we think the best villain of the year is. And the winner is going to be announced in a comic book. Yes, we can vote on who we think the villain of the year should be. Well, I know I'm voting for Kite Man, right? Hell yeah, right? I know it's cliche. I know I had to say it. I know I'm not the only one to say it. And I know I'm not going to be the last one to say it. But hell no. Just no. Why? Why, DC? What's going on? Like, come on. I don't know. The Year of the Villain thing. Now, we got to talk about this because this whole encumbrance, this Year of the Villain thing, the Year of the Villain, it covers a little bit of everything. Because the Year of the Villain, obviously, it originates with Apex Lex. Apex Lex being in the Justice League series written by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV. They're doing a really good job there. I like what they're doing with Justice League. So, I don't want to... Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, great job. Fantastic artists as well. I mean, they've done a really good job there, whetting the appetite. We got the Justice Doom War. So as Perpetua and Apex Lex are trying to take over all of time, and now they're fighting for the fragments of the totality, and they're fighting in World War II, and as the Justice Society has been discovered by Green Lantern and the Flash as they've traveled back in time to World War II around the time of Pearl Harbor, and they're trying to find that last fragment. And meanwhile, the other members of the Justice League of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, they're in the future, 10,000 years in the future, with Kamandi, the last boy on Earth, and they're trying to find a fragment, and they're fighting, and they meet up with the future Justice League A, I believe it's called, and they end up doing battle there with Brainiac 1 million, and they're going to be battling him. Meanwhile, Aquaman shows up, and Aquaman's teamed up with the Anti-Monitor, and the Perpetua, she's all excited with Apex Lex, and she says, Lex, don't worry, my son, the Anti-Monitor, he created a crisis back in the day. He's definitely going to be on my side, right? But guess what? He's not. The Anti-Monitor is actually on the side of justice. So now we got the Anti-Monitor and the Monitor on the same side, along with the World Forger and the Justice League. So finally the tide might be turning. Could it be turning? Could the scales of justice and doom finally be a little bit more in balance? It sort of seems that way as we move forward. So a lot of exciting things are happening in the pages of the Justice League. So I want to give prop. I want to rave about that a bit. I want to give props to that. Now, here's where things start to break down a little bit. Because Apex Lex has made all these offers, right? Remember Apex Lex, or Lex Luthor, he died on purpose. He killed himself on purpose in order to ascend, to be resurrected by Perpetua, to have all this foresight, this power and this vision of knowing what the future holds, of being connected to the doom aspects of the universe. I'm oversimplifying this. In any event, he liquidates all his empire and he makes all these offers to all these supervillains all over the globe. Although he hasn't made an offer to Kite Man yet, to my knowledge, and that's just a tragedy because we need more Kite Man. But in any event, he's made offers to all kinds of villains, and that's the jury's still out on how exciting that is. I think that's a little bit derivative. It hasn't really garnered a lot of excitement. You're the villain. That is, the offers haven't. The Justice League has been a really good title, but making it a larger event, I don't think it's worked very well. I'll give you some examples. In the pages of Wonder Woman, the Cheetah has made an offer. Very cliche, very derivative. She's offered the God Killer sword. Grail already had Grail. The daughter of Darkseid has had the God Killer sword, and she squandered the use of it because she wanted to create an Amazonian civil war to take over Paradise Island. Why? You're the daughter of Darkseid. You can't think bigger? You really want to rule over a bunch of what? Women? Isolated women? Really? You think that's small? You're the daughter of Darkseid. Think of the universe. Think like your father, man. Take over something bigger. That's the writer's fault. J. Willow Wilson was thinking really, really small there. But J. Willow Wilson is leaving Wonder Woman, and DC's not asking her back, and for very good reason. She's just boring. She writes a boring Wonder Woman. Pages of Wonder Woman. Now, then the Cheetah comes along, and Apex Lex has his little drones steal the sword and to give Cheetah the God Killer sword. Now, I'm gonna rant about that a little bit because it's so boring. Cheetah takes the God Killer sword, kills Aphrodite. That's what's happening in Wonder Woman. Cheetah has used the God Killer sword to kill Aphrodite, and now the big storyline in Wonder Woman, which is so boring with a capital B, do not buy the title, I can't recommend it in good faith. We have the death of love. Awful, terrible. I mean, how insulting. How insulting. You're writing Wonder Woman, and you come up with a story that involves the death of love. You actually think by killing some glorified, Aphrodite has always looked like a porn star. I mean, you kill some god purporting to be the goddess of love, and then that's the death of love. How insulting to even suggest in a comic book story. I'm sorry, but it lacks all verisimilitude. It lacks all verisimilitude, and I'm going to be using that word a lot because I finally learned how to pronounce it. It lacks all verisimilitude. Why? Simply because, and that means believability. I don't believe it. As if anybody's love for somebody else will just go away because you kill a goddess. It's just ridiculous. And it's just a boring storyline. Don't bother getting it. That's in the pages of Wonder Woman. In the pages of Aquaman, we got the Black Manta. Not bad. The offer that Lex basically gives Black Manta, a transformer. A giant transformer. But he calls it the Mecha Manta or some damn thing. I don't know what it is. So that's kind of, he's an angry black man who lives under the sea, and he wants to kill white Aquaman. I mean, no symbolism there whatsoever. But, it just, again, it's got potential. Angry black man wants to kill angry, perpetually upset white male. That's what Aquaman is. Really exciting stuff. DeConnick, I'm sounding sarcastic here, but DeConnick's doing a good job. I actually like Aquaman. I think she's done a good job writing him, and I'm looking forward to see what Black Manta does with his own personal transformer. I think that his storyline's actually well written. It's not bad. The other interesting aspect of it is where they're going is in the pages of Detective Comics. Another rave here is the Lex makes an offer to Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze is using it to resurrect Nora. He could finally resurrect his wife because that was his motivation all along. And so it's clear that in future solicits, Nora is likely going to take over the Freeze legacy, and at some point, I think, and this is my prediction, although I think it's implied in the solicitations that it's clear that I think she's going to end up taking the mantle, and maybe Mr. Freeze is going to be frozen for a while, and the character's going to be replaced. They're just changing the gender on the Mr. Freeze. It's going to be Mrs. Freeze or something. But Nora's going to come back. So that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see, to throw that on its head. Hopefully it'll be interesting from a character point of view and not just a very derivative gender swap. But we'll see how it turns out. Not really sure the offer made to Lobo. We're not sure what that is yet. That's still playing out in the pages of Teen Titans. The offer that Lex made to Lobo. Lobo's got an extremely dysfunctional relationship with his daughter Crush. Not surprising. Crush is pretty screwed up. And we got that love triangle going on between Crush and Robin and the Genie character. I forget her name. But in any event, it is what it is, and Adam Glass is doing a reasonably decent job. Now, the other villains that have been made an offer to, Riddler wasn't really made an offer by Lex Luthor, or at least the offer was more some self-help advice. Lex Luthor gave the Riddler, basically told the Riddler that he wasn't reaching his potential and that he should get his head out of his butt and, you know, maybe look at his priorities and maybe really do some deep soul searching. And, you know, is it really the case that you need to make Riddle, does everything have to be a riddle? And maybe if you stopped worrying so much about making everything a riddle, you might actually be successful in defeating Batman. That was basically it. The Riddler one-shot that came out, wow, it was so long. It was a long story, and it was it had a message. It had a self-help message is what it did. So it wasn't bad. It had a self-help message, but I was hoping for a little bit more. It needed more substance to it. You know, again, it was a decent enough message just about, you know, getting Riddler to maybe change the way that he looked at things and sort of go within and self-evaluate to figure out how he should approach Batman in the future if he wants to defeat him. But overall, it was boring. It was boring. It should have been better. It was him and King Tut, the villain character. Again, it was written by Mark Russell, and Mark Russell did a pretty good job with the Sinestro one shot. In fact, that's my favorite. Mark Russell on the Sinestro one shot, where he dealt with these little people that had sort of infected and lived their own lives with it. They were the antibodies in these warriors that destroyed planets, and Sinestro created microscopic versions of himself and influenced the society living within the bodies of these giants. It was very brilliantly written by Mark Russell. A lot of political analogies there, and very well done. So Sinestro one shot, I would definitely check out. Sinestro now has these powerful minions that basically work alongside him and do his bidding, because he basically controls the antibodies and the worlds that live within them. Cool stuff. But a lot's been so some interesting takes on villains here. But for the most part, the effect that Doom has had on the DC universe, it's been sort of negligible. You know, I mean, everyone gets a little upset once in a while, but to say that, it's all doom and gloom, or Lex Luthor is right, because, Lex is trying to influence the world, and now what's happening in the world, remember, is that in the DC universe, going on behind the scenes, if you follow the pages of Justice League, Lex Luthor is basically trying to spread his message of doom everywhere, trying to reinforce the idea that, embrace your darkness. You don't need to worry about the Batman who laughs. I mean, the Batman who laughs will infect you and you'll embrace your darker self. And that's another aspect of the DC universe, as well as, of course, is the Batman who laughs. Going on in the pages of Batman and Superman, there's a whole idea that 6 superheroes are infected by the Batman who laughs virus that makes them explore and embrace their darker selves. Well, basically, Lex Luthor says, you don't need a virus or something to explore your darker self. Just embrace it. Be dark by choice. You don't need to be dark. You don't need a virus to make you more susceptible to darkness. Why not just accept darkness? Give it a try once in a while. You might enjoy doom. Enough with justice. Try doom. It's like he's doing his own infomercial, That's what Lex is saying, and it's interesting. And so it's right now there's the lineup. There is some synchronicity there between the Batman who laughs, who utilizes this virus to try to get people to explore their darker side, and then you look at Apex Lex, and Apex Lex's attitude is, look, I don't need to do anything special here. I just need to show you guys. Look, let me show you how incredible and spectacular Doom is. And he's showing the villains by helping them out and giving them gifts. Now, as for the rest of humanity, it's interesting because in the latest issue with Lex Luthor explores the multiverse and explores and talks to another younger version of himself in another multiverse. And he talks to a young Alexander. He talks to a young boy. And he tries to teach this young version of himself the ways of Doom. And it's a very good story. I read it. I don't want to spoil it completely, but let's just say that Apex Lex has a very much an ulterior motive to try to get this kid to see things his way. Basically, another Alexander Luthor, another Lex Luthor from another Earth. And what he does is very, very evil, I think. But so typically Lex, and in particular, very appropriately Apex Lex. You'll see what I mean, but check out the Lex Luthor one-shot that's coming out this week. It's very interesting. So the DC Universe right now, we are getting some synchronicity here in terms of, you know, the approach toward Doom, and is embracing your darker self all that bad? And that's going to be a theme that I think I'm gonna rave a little bit about it. I'm not a huge fan of Williamson's Flash. Okay, Flash is one of those straggler titles. He's getting rid of the strength forces and the Sage Force, and he's having the Black Fat Flash come along, and because all these other forces are apparently eating up the Speed Force, and so there's a force war going on where the Speed Force is being the Black Flash. The Black Flash is a character that normally kills other Flashes when they're about to die. He shows up and he's sort of like, he's almost like their Valkyrie. You know, he takes them, he kind of kills them and then, you know, helps them die. But in this case, he's trying to preserve and salvage the Speed Force from dying. And so by doing so, he's got to kill Stealth. He's got to kill these various members of who carry the Still Force, the Sage Force, and the Strength Force, because it's sucking up and killing the Speed Force. Now, while he's doing that, and that's all well and good, meanwhile, in the pages of Batman and Superman, we got these 6 heroes. We got it's Supergirl, Hawkman, Shazam, a couple others, exploring their darker side. And what's interesting about it is that we know they're not really doing it by choice. It's as a result of this serum by the Batman Who Laughs. While their darker selves are facilitated and encouraged to come out from the virus, there is a sense that they want to embrace it. So imagine if all your inhibitions were gone. Every time you entertained a darker thought, that your inhibitions were gone, and you would embrace that dark thought and you would just do it. You would just do it, and you would deal with the consequences and then follow your next dark thought. I kind of like that. I think that's a very interesting approach to the characters, and we're going to be getting one-shots of the various darker selves of Supergirl and Hawkman and Shazam and I don't know, a few others. And it's I like that. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. Now, what they do with it is really what the jury is still out, because we can have some really derivative stories. We can have really boring stories if they do that, but we can have some exciting stories. It's all going to come down to the writing. I don't know how exciting it's going to be. I do know this, that, you know, Commissioner Gordon is another one of them. How exciting is that be, having a darker Commissioner Gordon? We've had a lot of darkness in the DC universe. We've had between Metal and the Batman Who Laughs. And even with the Justice League Doom War, which, as much as I've enjoyed it, it's been pretty dark. And we've had some darkness with Justice League Dark and The Witching Hour. We've had a lot of darkness there. And so, I don't know. I wonder if we've had too much of it. But I guess maybe the jury's still out. Now, so overall, I'm curious to see where this darkness is going to go with respect to the Batman Who Laughs, with the virus and the Batman and Superman direction and the infections of these 6 superheroes. It's going to be interesting to see where that takes us. Now, I want to talk a little bit now about the Bendis-verse, and in particular the Superman and the Rogol Zaar thing, because this is something that has been just on my mind for quite a while. It's been, many people have been talking about it, or at least venting about it. Bendis has been really tripping about it. He's been saying all kinds of things about it. He's really been trying to hammer the point home that that he's excited, and he talks about the artists, and Bendis does his own sort of self promotion, and he talks and he works well with the artists, and just like Tom King, Bendis has a lot of great artists working for him. Bendis' Superman with Ivan Reis on the art does a fantastic job, and now. But it's clear that something has been going on in the pages of DC Comics. I mean, after all, we did have this, right? I mean, I got the 2 covers that were rejected and called back, So, I mean, I did the Speculator thing and I got the covers. But let's face it, DC right now seems to be a little bit all over the place in terms of their continuity. No more is that more apparent, and I think, than with what Bendis has been doing in the pages of Superman. And there's just not a lot of excitement. I can't be the only one that thinks that there should be more excitement around the Superman Rogol-Zaar storyline, but there just isn't. It's not particularly exciting, but that's because Bendis hasn't made it exciting. It's just plain been boring. It hasn't been very exciting. Ivan Reis has done fantastic art, and we've had these epic battle scenes drawn, but they're abrupt and they stop short. And nothing's resolved, and then we get this very spotty storytelling where we're jumping from scene to scene, and we're deprived of any revelation. We're deprived of anything of substance in terms of the information we need to satisfactorily understand what's going on in the story. Superman, this latest issue of Superman number 15, it's revealed that Rogol-Zaar is in fact a creature that was created by Jor-El. We didn't know that. That just came out of the blue. Jor-El is sentenced and sent back to Krypton, where he dies. That's it. That's it. All that storyline, all that rubbishness about, the grumpy grandpa. Is Jor-El psychotic? No, Bendis just said he's just we all have people in our families that are just grumpy. Jor-El's not psychotic. Well, now suddenly he's psychotic enough that the entire United Federation of Planets charges Jor-El with violating time travel, even though Jor-El had nothing to do with traveling back from, somebody else plucked Jor-El out of time. We thought it was Dr. Manhattan. Apparently it wasn't. Somebody else did that. Jor-El comes forward, does all these crazy things, kidnaps Tim Drake, kills Metallo. What else does Jor-El do? And then all of a sudden he decides he wants to go on a universal trip with John Kent, his grandson, and then loses his grandson in another multiverse on Earth 3. John Kent ages up 7 years, comes back. Jor-El then meets up with Superman, Supergirl, and then with an older Superboy. And then all of a sudden they randomly show up and defeat Rogol-Zaar. And Rogol-Zaar is defeated, and then suddenly they break up an intergalactic war because John Kent mentions the word United Nations, which he must have learned while sitting in a volcano on Earth 3 for 7 years. That's Bendis' story. Wow, I can't believe I actually got that out of my mouth. If what I just said baffled you, welcome to the club. If what I just said didn't baffle you and you actually followed what I just said, well, then we're drinking the same stuff. It's actually Twisted Tea Original. Anyways, the Bendis-verse is crazy right now, but I'll tell you what, I'll give him props for this. Okay, we finally got the Legion of Superheroes. Okay, we got the mess of Doomsday Clock. I love Doomsday Clock, but let's face it, Jeff Johns lost the war. He's lost the editorial war. Jeff Johns is doing his own thing, doing the Stargirl thing. He's promoting he's producing the Stargirl movie. Stargirl is a character that Jeff Johns created. It's based on his sister. It's based on his sister who was killed in a plane crash in 1996, Pan Am flight, whatever. So it's true to Jeff Johns' heart. So his heart and soul's in that. I don't think Jeff Johns' heart and soul is in comic books anymore, per se. And if it is, well, he's clearly lost the war there, because Dan Didio's darkness has overcome Jeff Johns' initial plans for Doomsday Clock. It's quite clear in Doomsday Clock where it was headed. I've heard it through various sources that issues 11 and 12 were rewritten. I know some people are insistent saying that's not the case. I can tell you that is the case. It is the case. A Legion of Superheroes was going to be introduced in the pages of Doomsday Clock. The reason why Saturn Girl disappeared in issue 11 of Doomsday Clock was because they're not using that version of Supergirl in the DC universe, so they had to dissipate her from the timeline, which is exactly what they did. They've rewritten the ending to Doomsday Clock. It's been said, in fact, there's even a rumor on, and I know it's just a rumor, but it's fairly, you can accept it. I believe it. I believe it wholeheartedly that if Doomsday Clock was written now, it would be a Black Label comic. That is the rumor on bleedingcool.com. And I know that's a gossip site. You can take that with a grain of salt. But that one, I actually think you can take to the bank on that. It's fairly obvious. I've been meticulously dissecting Doomsday Clock from the beginning, all the issues. And issue 11 really threw me off, and in fact, I even mistook the gender of Mom and Marionette's kid. The kid looked like it was. I thought it was. I thought it was a girl because the way it was drawn by Gary Frank, but it said it's a boy, and I misgendered the daughter of Mime, the kid of Mime and Marionette. That's on me. So just too much drinking this, guys. It happens, you know. But in any event, the Doomsday Clock thing. And how everything seems to be, they're trying to work things in now. The Justice Society is now introduced in the pages of Superman, in the pages of Justice League. Superman now, in the pages of Superman, is introduced to Legion of Superheroes. John Kent will fly off to the Legion of Superheroes. We got the atrociously written, badly written abortion of Millennium number 1 of 2 by Bendis that doesn't even star the Legion of Superheroes. Bendis then goes and instead of apologizing for his atrocious false advertising, just like Tom King didn't apologize for blatantly lying about Batman issue 50, Bendis doesn't apologize for blatantly false advertising and misleading people about Millennium number 1. It does not star the Legion of Superheroes. It is not about the Legion of Superheroes. They are not even in the comic book. They're not even in the comic book, but as he said, oh, he tweeted, oh, Bendis says, oh, he tweets now, oh, well, it was just the road to the Legion of Superheroes. No, that's not what the cover says. It says Legion of Superheroes, Millennium, 1 of 2. Nowhere does it say, asterisk, the Legion of Superheroes do not appear anywhere in this comic book. Instead, we get treated to Rose and Thorn, some psychotic redhead that nobody gives a crap about. But hey, there it is. But hey, once again, it's beautifully drawn. So the modem, it would appear that with DC, DC is, when you don't have a story, put a really good artist on it to try to cover up the fact that you don't have a story. So Jim Lee, who can't meet a deadline of his life dependent on it. Of all the things Jim Lee does, he does art for Millennium? Who gives a crap? Does anybody care about Rose and Thorn? Nobody cares about Rose and Thorn. And now she's going to be a member of the Legion of Superheroes? Okay, I'm not saying she can't be an interesting addition. Okay, but I'll tell you one thing. She'll be a more interesting addition when somebody else writes the Legion of Superheroes other than Bendis. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. Because he inspires no confidence whatsoever. And remember, Bendis has not earned our trust. He's not earned the reader's trust. He's done a terrible job with Superman. We are 35 issues in with Superman since Man of Steel, 6 issues of Man of Steel, 15 issues of Superman, 14 issues of Supergirl, and we still don't have any answers about who Rogolzar is other than now he was created by Jor-El. That's it. We don't know why Krypton was destroyed, the Circle. We don't know what the secrets of the Circle were. Apparently all this evidence against Jor-El, we don't know what any of that evidence is. We don't know what it bleds. None of this has been revealed. He doesn't care of giving the reader the information. So what's the point? Where's the story if you don't care if the reader gets the information? You think we're just going to ignore it because we got pretty art? Where's the story? Where's the story? This is ridiculous. This is nonsense. But whatever, I guess he's relying on the fact that guys like me are not only addicted to alcohol, but we're addicted to comics. So he knows we're going to keep coming back. This isn't fair. He's like the drug pusher, you know? Bendis is the drug dealer. He's pushing the drugs. And he knows I'm addicted, so he knows I'm going to buy the next issue. It's not right. Somebody should arrest him. It's so good, though. Right? So good. I can't help it. At least alcohol's good. But when I read Bendis' Superman, it's not that good. Why do I still read it? It is what it is. But, you know, that's my rant. It is what it is. But, you know, between all four of these things, that's my rant about the Bendis thing. Between all four of these things, or I'm sorry, that's five. And then, of course, we get Tom King. Now, I'm not even going to rant about Tom King anymore. All I got to say is Clayman, the artist, he draws an amazing Selina. And even an amazing Batman. Good grief, can that guy draw. Good stuff. I'm enjoying it. The art. The story is terrible. But I got to admit, I am kind of curious to see how it all wraps up. Because at this point, when you know you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, right? I mean, I got every issue of Tom King's Batman run. It's like I'm not gonna stop now. It's like between Bendis and King, you know, it's like one of them is cocaine and the other one's heroin, and I'm addicted to both. It's like I am totally screwed. But whatever it is what it is. It's a drug addiction. That's what it is. But right now, as I'm doing this rant and rave video, it occurs to me that I'm actually, there is some excitement about where things are headed in the DC universe. My biggest criticism that I have is I just wish they would make it a little bit more tight. They would tighten things up and make the stories a little bit more, not a little bit more, far more faster. They need to resolve quicker because they're wasting too many times. Well, Bendis, I actually would like Bendis to be fired, if I'm honest, because I don't think you need Bendis, because he's too. One of the things that is not working well with Bendis is his dialogue. He spends, I mean, and no more is that on display than with Millennium, where he will spend 5 or 6 pages of completely useless dialogue that literally. It's not that you can shorten it. You could literally eliminate it from the comic book entirely, and it has no bearing on the comic book. It would not affect the substance of the narrative whatsoever. Latest issue of Superman, Prime, you could eliminate 12 of those pages, minimum, and you would not affect the quality of the narrative at all, because the quality is that low. When you have revelations, I mean, for example, literally, there's one line. We find out in a line where Adam Strange says, just in passing, Jor-El created Rogol Zaar. That's it. Where'd that come from? So we've gone through 35 issues, and now we got to find out from some random shit character, Adam Strange, that Tom King's going to be writing about. So you know it's a shit character. He's going to be writing about in a few months anyway. We find out from Adam Strange that Jor-El created... and then Adam Strange mentions all this evidence against Jor-El. What evidence against Jor-El? I mean, we know Jor-El's a psychotic, and we know he's done some things wrong. Yeah, we know he's killed some people, but what has Jor-El done, really? What's the evidence relied upon? Anyways, it's this type of craziness that drives me crazy. Anyways, craziness that drives me crazy, see? Good God. Ah, man, I'm starting to sound like one of Bendis' characters. You know what I mean? So? You know? No? Yo? Yeah? Really? Really? Yeah? Yeah? Hey? Hey? Anyways, good God. Is all hope lost in the DC universe? I'm going to say that I'm seriously, I'm up in the air. All I know is that I'm going to New York Comic Con next month. And I intend to have a good time. And I know because I'll be with Dark Knight Nation. And we'll be doing some videos from there. And we hope to do some interviews. And we hope that we'll be having a lot of fun. I guarantee that. Maybe check out a couple pizza places. And you know, I've never been in New York before. So I intend on having a very good time. And we shall see. And I hope to, we will be going to more than one DC panel. And I'll be doing some venting there, I would imagine. But in the meantime, guys, Tell me what you think of the DC universe. I've ranted and raved enough, and I don't really know. The jury's still out in terms of where things are going with the DC universe right now. All I gotta say is, it is what it is. Tell me what you guys think. It is what it is. So, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter. And until next time, comic boom out.